Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Digital Collective. I'm your host, James Hicks from Hicks New Media. And on this show, we focus on the people, platforms, and the tools that are making positive strides within the technology sector today. My guest today is author, speaker, and consultant on tech life balance and personal sustainability, Taino Bendz. Folks, think about all the times we check our phones. Think about you wake up, you go to sleep, all the times we interact with technology on a daily basis. Is this mentally healthy to be so tethered to these devices? Honestly, it's probably not. And today we're going to talk about some creative and strategic ways to thrive in this digital world. Tiano knows his stuff. Listen, he founded Phone Free Day, which is an initiative to help us all take control of our phone use. And he literally wrote the book, which we're going to talk about a little bit today. Get your questions ready. It's going to be a dynamic conversation on either side. Let's go. To say the man literally wrote the book, there's the book right there next to him, ladies and gentlemen. Tech Life Balance. Tiano Benz, how are you, sir?
I'm great, James. Really excited to be on here.
Love it, man. Love it. And we already talked, so you're not in the you're slightly in the future. It's not tomorrow yet, but it is tonight. What I don't know what's going on. You know, it's Sweden. What's going on, brother?
Oh,
I
Sweden, we just came out of 6 months of absolute darkness
oh my
and
goodness.
cold and just starting to see the sun. So the sun has been shining all day. We're, starting to live again.
You're in a good mood. There we go. So you're in a great mood. You got some sun. We're gonna have a dynamic conversation. Look, I gave the 35,000 foot kind of pitch in terms of who you are, what it is that you do, and what it is that you've done. But I always like to have the person give their origin story. So if you don't mind, if you can tell my community who it is you are, what it is that you do, and really why we're going to have this conversation today.
Yeah, definitely. So it all goes back quite a few years, really, when I've looked back and thought about, where I'm at now, what led to this, what started it. So if we, without taking my whole life story, quite a few years ago, when social media started coming, sort of 2005, 2006, the smartphone slowly started making its way in. I never jumped on Facebook, so it came when I was in high school, and for different reasons, I never joined Facebook. So I've always been on the kind of outside looking in and noticing how it distracted us from different things in our life, right? So it brought so many positive, cool things. You could talk to people around the world, you could organize events, all of that. You and I are having this conversation using tech. I'm an engineer. I like tech and so on. But just to give you an idea of where I come from, it's as that sort of okay. These new cool tools. I got a smartphone in whatever 2010 or so. Super cool tools. But then I started realizing how they got in between me and where I wanted to go in life. To be honest, in between me and friends, in between me and relationships, disturbed my studying. As we talked a bit about briefly, I used to play basketball and got in between a bit in between me and sports as well. So long story short, my journey leading up to this in 2014, me and my wife got married and had a phone-free wedding ceremony
Nice.
because
Okay.
we'd been to so many weddings where everyone, including ourselves, just sat, glued to their phone, trying to snap the perfect picture and then share it and have the perfect filter. Um, and what's funny about that, which I'd love to dive into with you and engage watchers and listeners as well, is that a lot of people really appreciated us, being clear on that, because then they could relax. So we're so used to using all these technologies, but then once we said, please don't use your phone during the ceremony and dinner and so on, they're like, oh, we can engage with each other, we can focus on the party, on the, all of this. And then, as you said, founded, I have two children, very conscious and to be honest, kind of concerned about the role that digital tech is playing in their upbringing, and not only their own use, but even more so actually adults' use, and how adults, I've done it too, neglect children because of technology.
Yeah.
Founded Phone Free Day in 2019 or 2020. I've done some research around this. By now, I've with universities. By now, I've spoken to thousands of people, and as I told you, what really gives me energy and makes me keep going are all these stories from people who are struggling with this, who see different problems, and which I always focus on, do something about it to thrive in this digital age. So right now, do some speaking, the book is coming out. I'm working part-time as an engineering manager in an industry not related to this, in water treatment industry. So as an engineer, as a manager there. So so just looking to help people build a healthy relationship.
I love that. Healthy relationship with their technology, and appreciate all of that background. And I alluded to behind the scenes that I would tell you kind of my story, my onus about, again, technology usage, and especially around our youth. So I, as I mentioned, will also work within the enterprise technology world. And for the last decade or so, I have also harbored, probably not correctly, but harbored this feeling that I'm responsible for that short attention span of our youth when it comes to social media, right? That 3 second, 6 second swipe left and swipe right, because I sell the infrastructure into those companies. I sell the storage, the network, the compute into the Facebooks and the Googles and the those companies of the world. So I'm actually responsible from an extent to that infrastructure going into data centers and things of that nature. And for over a decade, I have some personal onus that I'm responsible because I'm proliferating that environment. So I know it's not my fault. I know it's me inside of my own head, but that's why this story and this conversation resonated with me so much, because it's going to be a personal therapy session just for me to hear some of the tools, best practices, and thoughts of moving away from so much reliance on technology. Why, before we go to sleep, do we have to look at our phone and go through our social media feed, right? Why, when we wake up, do we have to look at that email and see who, right? Why can't we breathe and give our own selves a break and not be so tethered to everything that we've got within these small devices? So there's my story to you in terms of, again, how I really wanted to have this conversation with you. Let me ask you this though. Why did you feel the onus to actually start something like this? Yeah, you said you wanted your wedding to be non-phone focused, and you wanted to do the phone free day, but why you, right? In terms of kicking off this, or was it just that there was no one else doing it, or again, it just, you saw something in your world just besides just some of those non-interactions between people that made you just jumpstart and say, I'm gonna be the leader instead of the follower?
Great question, and there is actually a tipping point or tipping moment, which was, as I told you before, I spent a couple of years living in New Zealand, and my boys were probably 1 and 4 maybe, and we were at a playground. I was down on all fours, crawling around, playing with the kids. Another child starts crying, and I look up to see where the parent is, and all that meets me is a wall of smartphones. And for the first time, I realized how it is to be a child in a world where adults, let's get it out there, sometimes care more about their phone than their child.
Wow.
I've been that parent. I've done it. I would like to confess that I probably did it today, just a few hours ago, when I checked an email in front of my child. and I am, even I just want to say that I'm not a saint, I'm not perfect. I work a lot with myself, and I felt like I needed to do that before starting this work. So I have a lot of these practices that I do follow, but even I did that today. So that was the tipping moment. I worked with a coach at the time, and I wanted to do something good in the world. We talked about climate change and doing something around sustainability, and then I just shared this story with him that I just shared with you, and his name is John. He was like, Taino, that's what we're gonna do. You just, your eyes lit up when you told this story. Let's do something around phones, and or yeah. So and what really, again, the first phone free day gave me I guess the proof or the signal that this is really, really needed. So many people, strangers, some media, coverage, that really said, "Hey, okay, this is really a problem."
Love it. Love it. Now,
Yeah,
okay, October 22nd, you're going to do it again this year, right?
I need to update that,
Now you got to
James.
update. See, I'm gonna call you on the carpet
Yeah,
live here, right? That was
yeah,
last time, so we got to do it again this year for sure. Um,
yeah.
I,
So the plan, just to speak really,
yeah.
really briefly to that, my plan with Phone Free Day, rather than have it, one day organizing it every year, is to make it accessible for anyone whenever. So rather than having
Mhm.
one day and driving towards that, it's like anyone can go on there. You can sign up. You can choose your own challenge. You can have some resources, take an phone addiction test, and then create your own day where you're not necessarily fully without the phone. So I call it phone free day because I consider it that you're free of the burden of the addictive side. So this will look different for everyone. Some people will go no phone at all. Some people will go no social media for a day. A lot of people went no phone when I'm around people. So it's all about, yeah, creating your own thing.
Okay, and I like that distinction, right? And I guess what we're also saying is it's not necessarily bad that we have to, because in a sense we do have to utilize these devices because we put so much reliance from a business perspective. I wish I knew my parents' phone numbers off the top of my head, but all I know is just mom and dad, right? And so we have to utilize these things. But I guess one of the principles that you talk about in the book is setting personal boundaries, right? Designating either specific spaces, specific times, doing time blocking, doing those kinds of things that a lot of folks from a business and getting things done and type of mentality perspective are already doing. But now you're saying let's add in our digital product, phone usage, email checking, uh, social media checking, things of that nature, right? And I don't want to assume, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that kind of what you're saying as well? Putting specific boundaries around and assessing when you're going to use these bits of technology.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And I think you brought up a number of really good points there. So one is this thing about what's called a time and space design or place design, which is just like you alluded to, selecting certain times and places where you're not on devices or when you are on your devices. So for example, evenings after, let's say, 9 p.m., mornings before 8 a.m., is a time when I don't use my smartphone, or maybe I use it but without Wi-Fi and data on, for
Okay.
example, whatever works for the person. And also another thing that just came to my mind when you said business people and people using time blocking techniques and so on. What I find, excuse me, really interesting about this topic is that everyone can relate to it, in different ways. So the book is divided up into 6 chapters. And someone asked me, what's the target group if we're going to do marketing? Who's the target audience? And I'm like, there is no real target audience because we've got the chapter, focus and productivity, super important for any business professional. We've got the chapter mental health, probably important for anyone using a smartphone, period. We've got physical health, we've got families, important obviously for those with families. We've got relationships, important for anyone who has a relationship, whether with romantic or friends. So I think it's important to realize that this affects us all in different ways. It's not, oh, it's teenagers, they can't get off TikTok. No, it's not, business people, they always check their emails at night. Oh, all that's part of the problem, but we're all we all have our challenges in different ways. So I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind, James, apart from
you can turn the
your
tables on me. Oh my goodness. Okay.
apart from what you spoke to about, in some ways being responsible, which was what you said, which I think both of us realize you're not, but you're part of it. You're providing the
Yeah.
infrastructure and so on. In your life, do you find any challenges? I mean, you're really active on social media. We're doing this across a number of platforms. You've got probably a email account that brings a lot of emails in, and you've got a partner. Like, do you have any challenging balancing tech in your life?
Yes. Right. So again, I really try to be cognizant, try to be conscious about usage and using some of those time blocking technologies, but being within the industry, being within an environment where a high usage of these items, platforms, software, hardware, whatever the case may be, is almost required. Finding the right time within the day. So I use all 24 hours of the day. There's very few times that I sleep. Now, I don't know if my wife's listening. She would not like that answer, but uh, doing more effective time blocking is something that necessarily I need to do. I wish I was more of a morning person so I could take more advantage of the quieter times as opposed to being a late night person. And I could maybe switch to 5 to 7 or something in the morning where I could do some of those administrative pieces, right? Checking the emails, updating social media posts, doing scheduling, doing some of those things around being locked into a screen all the time, and then stepping out, going outside, getting some vitamin D, right? Going for a run, all of that. The challenging part for me is just taking one foot off of the wheel because it's always spinning and there's always some activity that has to happen. And that's really the life I think of a lot of solopreneurs, entrepreneurs who are starting to get on this trajectory to where there's more volume, there's more activity. So I'm at an interesting point to where, listen, there was a plateau for a while, but now we're rising in terms of either visibility, advocacy, and influence, whatever the case may be, that there has to be some additional movement. Now, consciously, I could, yes, hire someone to come in and do some of those activities. I'm too stubborn to do it. I still need to have all 10 fingers on a lot of activities, but long answer short, yeah, it's still a challenge for me on a daily basis to block out the amount of time and stay locked in on that, right? So at night before I go to sleep, I'll mark down the top 3 things I want to do the next day. I'm an eat the frog kind of guy, right? So when I wake up the next morning, I'm gonna say I'm gonna do these things, but there's still those times where it creeps in and I get a notification or I'll get an alert to say, go look at this when I know I probably shouldn't. So, and just like my friend Roy here says, but I love my addictions, coffee and my phone. I can drink coffee until like 10 o'clock at night. Which is probably not. My doctor told me that's probably not a good thing for me as well. But I digress on that one. So help me, like I say, help me to help me on this one right here, right? Because when I get a copy of the book, listen, I'm definitely gonna read it front and back, left and right, and addicted to technology. When I go to the gym, if you get an audio book, I'm gonna get the audio book as well.
Yeah. No, we're considering it now, and what what I'm quite happy with how the book turned out, and what we wanted to do is to first of all have something for everyone, because there is no one size fits all. And if I told you, okay, so I advise everyone to turn no screen after 8 p.m. and before 8 a.m., you're gonna go, but I need to be on that time, and I have someone in another time zone, or I have some emails then, or I spend 6 to 9 p.m. with my wife, and then I go online. So that wouldn't work for you. So idea here is to have a lot of different options for different people. I'm sure there is something that can help and everyone. And also, I just, when you're told, thank you for sharing, a bit of your reality and challenges connected to this. And something that I keep coming back to, and to solopreneurs, to business people, to anyone who feels like they're living a busy life. Sometimes I feel like it's the busy people who needs this the most. And we know research over and over again shows how important it is with a break, that we actually get more productive, even if we feel like, oh, I have so much to do. I don't have time for a break. I'll eat my lunch in front of the computer. I'll keep going. The one who actually steps away, who does go outside for 10 minutes, is actually going to get more done than the one who spends 8 hours in front of the screen. So
Yeah, I agree with
so
that, and I
that's
also
something
think
that
that we. So I was going to say this because it'll fall out of my head because I'm getting old. Um, I think we think we're busy when we're not really busy, right?
yes,
Time management effectively, utilizing time management effectively, right, as opposed to procrastinating, waiting till the last minute, not really using the time of the day as effective as we can. So we think we're busy, we look busy, but have we really moved the needle in a forward progressive movement?
you're
That could be
you're
debated as
ab-
well.
absolutely
Yeah.
correct. And there's this term, I guess, or concept that I talk a lot about, which is busy but unproductive. And in our, in today's culture, being busy is premiered, and like, oh, I've got a lot on right now. I've got a lot on my plate. I'm so busy. Where maybe it should be, I'm getting so much done right now. I'm in the flow. I'm finishing tasks off. But for a lot of people, it is, if you look busy, if you keep busy, it seems like you're doing your job, where where it might actually be, like you said, procrastination and so on, or different fears playing up, which means that we're not, what expression did you use, moving the needle.
Yeah, and move the
Yeah.
needle forward. Yeah,
Mm.
that's it.
Um,
Pushing the rock uphill, right, instead of going downhill. Like doing things the
ex-
hard
ex-
way. Yeah.
exactly. So and procrastination is funny, because by now, I mean, it's on steroids with our smartphones, with the media, social media, with games, and also that we're using the same tools for entertainment as we are for work.
Mm,
So I'm on my laptop right now. I can go on YouTube, I can go on
yeah.
Netflix, I can go on anything, news sites, but I also have my work email, my document, my book. I mean, this tool, and same thing with a smartphone, which makes it really hard for us and kind of blurs the boundary as well. um, but so going back to your question, help me, help you.
This is all about me,
Right
folks. Right, Roy. I see
now.
you challenge, and I see a lot of folks watching on Twitter as well. Come on over to YouTube so you can engage. But yeah, right now this is a selfish conversation. It's all about me trying to get right so I can be better for y'all. So
Yeah, no, but I mean, I think it's good to bring up real cases, and I have a ton of stories that I can share, where people have either come to me, or in my speaking engagements, have expressed certain things, questions around certain things, and then tried on some of these 101 ways and really help them. I'd actually be happy to read a quote or two before
let's
before
do it.
we
I love it.
finish, with what actually we might do it right now. I'll just pick up. So what I did was that I asked people to try out some of the hacks in the book. When I wrote the book. Now I just need to find something here. Let's see here. Ah, um, here is one. So one of the hacks is, for anyone primarily using a laptop or digital tool as their main working tool. One of the hacks is to take walking meetings. So instead of being stuck in front of the screen the whole day, you, whether it's Zoom or Teams or any online platform, or call, to actually plug in, take it on your smartphone, and go out for a walk. So I had a person in the US, Sarah, who tried this for 2 weeks, and she said, I work at an insurance company and spend most of my day sitting down with lots of online meetings. whether I'm working from home or in the office. I took one walking meeting per day for 2 weeks and absolutely loved it. I felt less tired at the end of the day, less stressed, and I got more done after the walk. Oh, and I couldn't multitask during the meeting. Remains to see if I can keep up the good habit.
Mm. That would help me with
So,
this challenge that I'm in at work, right? Because I'm supposed to be doing more steps and walking, but of course I'm sitting here for 6 7 hours. Okay, maybe my
yeah,
next two
yeah.
meetings I'll walk to the park or something. That's a
Yeah,
good point.
yeah, you can try it. And I do it, and I encourage other, the one I'm talking to. I say, do you mind if I go out? I've been in front of the screen the whole day, and the normal response is, oh, so have I.
Yeah,
But I mean, yeah, for continuing with common, I guess, for you and listeners, and common challenges are often around, if we talk about productivity, it is a lot about the distractions.
yeah,
So we this feeling of being busy is often connected to multitasking, which research suggests that only 2% of the population can truly multitask. I always get the image of Air Force pilots who do a lot of things
right.
at the same time. Probably some other working workers as well can multitask well. So 2%. The rest of 98% of people are task switching. What happens when we task switch
Wow,
is that we are spreading our
come on.
cognitive ability out between a number of tasks. One study suggests that for every task we divide our IQ up. So if you're writing an email
I'm in trouble.
and you start doing something else, you have your IQ. At another task, you're dividing it in three. Whether that's true or not, but it does add stress for sure. It does lower our output, and even if we feel like we're doing a lot, we're actually not advancing the two tasks as quickly as we would if we focused on one and then did the other. So I'm sure you're familiar with, for example, the Pomodoro technique, time
Yeah,
blocking
that's because
25.
there's Pomodoro, the 15 minutes, and then there's the eat the frog mentality kind of that I mentioned, where again I try to do the
Mm,
big things first. But
that's
man,
right. Um, so yeah, so I think that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, am I actually multitasking or am I task switching? And
yeah, I mean,
being
you
aware of the
hit me right there
consequences.
with that, right? I mean, that really speaks volumes, and I sure Shirley's talking about it too. Only 2% can multitask. Unbelievable. Now she says, I don't feel too bad now. But when you put, and I'll let you continue, but when you put it in that context, and when you say maybe there's an IQ shift as well, right? Because I can do Visio diagrams, I can do PowerPoint presentations about a specific topic really well. I can switch over and do and produce a live stream going across multiple platforms. Okay, right. So I mean, there's a skill set. There's a attentive. There's just a different shift in terms of the left and the right side of the brain and just capabilities as well. So I'm stuck on that. You don't have to say anything
Mm.
else, but I'm sold. No,
Ah, I
go ahead. I'm sorry,
I
man.
just hit the buzzer beater.
That's it right there, brother. Value right there, folks.
But
Put a like in
but
the comment or something. This is good right here. Go
but
ahead.
but just came to think about something else which is really interesting around when we do switch from tasks, and you just gave a great example. And I see a comment here of how long it takes to get back into the flow of the job. Absolutely. 30 plus minutes was suggested here. One study that I often refer to from, I can't remember, a US university, suggests around 23 minutes, which is massive
That's
time
huge.
to
It's
get back
huge.
into the flow.
Yeah.
And if you think about all the distractions that we get daily, we waste a lot of time. So what I was going to say related to this is something called uh, like task residue. So if we take the example that you just did, where you're working on a Visio diagram, you're really into that, and then you get whether it's self-inflicted task switching, or if it's a notification or something distracts you, and you get into the preparing live stream thing, or a really different task. Task 1, preparing the Visio diagram, actually stays within your brain. So you have a residue. You can't just like this. Okay,
True.
now I'm doing this task. Now I'm doing that, because it stays a while there. So that's why things like Pomodoro are so powerful. When you spend a chunk of time, in the Pomodoro case, 25 minutes, on a task, then you take a 5-minute break, and then you can either continue on the task or switch to another task with a fresh brain. Also, affects creativity, innovation, and so much of today's, pretty much whatever you're working with, we need to be creative, come up with new ideas,
Right.
innovate. Pretty much in whatever you're doing, even if you're not in tech. I mean, you always need to do that. And again, if we're always in this busy, high alert state, we can never get the space to think new thoughts, to assimilate the knowledge we've gathered, and come up with new things. We'll just be stuck in the same tracks continuously.
Yeah, and I love the fact that we're kind of expanding the conversation and not just be about the phone, right? We're expanding the conversation to really be about almost anything that we feel that we're locked in on and we feel that we have to do. So yeah, a lot of our lives are wrapped around technology and digital products and things of that nature. But it's not just that phone is in our pocket. It could be any other thing. I like what Roy's saying here. He says, I have to time block and compartmentalize my tasks. So it's challenging. He has a short attention span on top of that. So again, tools, techniques, best practices, principles, like again what you've written in the book, can really help with that. Identifying. Well, I'm gonna get to that one later. I'm looking at one right here: identifying tech life balance, promoting apps. Because again, it's almost a paradox, right? Because we're talking about apps now to help to stay away from that. But the one of becoming healthier and more active. Just the fact that you found that example in the book of getting out, doing a walk while doing your conference calls or whatever the case may be. It's so easy. It's almost a commonsensical type of thing, right? Yeah, I can put my socks and my shoes on right now or after this and go do my next 2 meetings around my block and get my steps in and fulfill the needs of my work challenge and also probably be in a much better mood afterwards because I've gotten some exercise, I've gotten some exposure outside. So
So James, what I would love to see is a
yeah.
selfie in an
Oh,
hour's time. Is a selfie of you on social media where you're out on those meetings.
all right, brother. All right. You know what? Let it be
Challenge.
written, let it be done, man. I'm gonna make that happen. I will send you. I'm not much of a selfie guy, but I'll send you a selfie of me out there in the sun. Okay, my God. Somebody ask a question because he's now giving me
I just
homework.
wanted I just wanted to just bring up one thing that I think can help people. Two things. One is, for anyone listen to our conversation, think about don't just sit here listen to us, but think about your own situation, your own life. So one of the first things I do, both in the book but also in my presentations, I had one on the day before yesterday, is to say there's all this research, I can tell you all of these things, but you need to think about your own life. Do you have trouble sleeping at night? Do you sometimes lie in the bed and scroll and suddenly it's 1 a.m. when you started at 11 p.m.? Do you use it in the car when we know that adds so much more risk to being in a crash? Do you use, are you stressed by being available and so on? So that's, the first thing that I think everyone should do is to consider the impact it is having. When are you using it in a way that supports where you want to go in your life, and when is it actually distracting you from where you want to go in your life? So I think that's a really, really central point in doing. And the other point I wanted to make, or just comment when you said that it's not only about the phone, and you're completely correct. So I talk about the term attention grabbing technology, and today for most people it is the phone. But it's also, the phone itself is the hardware, and you're the tech guy, so you know this much better than me with hardware and software and so on. But the phone is the hardware. That's the issue for most people. But it's the software in it. It's the app. It's the services. It's the all these platforms, news sites, and so on. Then we've got the hardware, a TV with its software, and now they're smarter and smarter. So we've got all these different. I see that you have a smartwatch. I think I saw on your wrist.
Yes, you get the Apple Watch.
Apple Watch, that can be an attention-grabbing technology. So anything that's designed, I define attention-grabbing technology as anything that's designed to take and keep the user's attention. So can be a lot of different things.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to pivot here just a little bit, because it's you have to be conscious to know to break that cycle, because those apps, those platforms are written and designed to maintain your attention on those platforms, right? TikTok doesn't want you leaving the platform to go do something else. Instagram doesn't want you leaving to go to somebody else's platform. So they're designed to trigger that dopamine hit when you see something, and then when you like something, you get the haptic feedback on these watches, right? So all of these tools that we use are designed to make sure that we spend more time taking advantage of using them. So how do we break that shift? How do we consciously either acknowledge, recognize that that's happening, and then move out of that continuum? Or how do we do that, right? Is it just recognition that, again, these platforms and these environments? I've had this conversation with Roy before, Tech Troublemaker, because again, he works in the enterprise technology field as well, and again, we take that onus and that responsibility of educating and informing folks that, listen, these things are written to make sure that you spend 23 of your 24 hours looking at Facebook. You can't do that. That's just not healthy from a mental perspective, from a relationship perspective as well. So I guess talk a little bit about just your thoughts of how do we get folks out of this cycle?
Absolutely, and you're completely right. It is a self perpetuating and continuous loop that you get into, and the dopamine trigger is real, and we've got the best engineers in the world, whether in Silicon Valley or China or other parts of the world, whose job is to make sure that the users don't leave. And you've got the famous algorithms. You've got quite a few people now who have left the tech sector and talked about that. One guy from YouTube who was in charge of developing the algorithm that kept users on the platform. So that's a fact. It's not a conspiracy theory or trying to blame big tech. That's how it is. And just before I continue, just want to say and think both of us are on the same page there, that it's not about all certainly not all digital tech is bad. We need to stop social media. We need to all these things, but it's about using it in a different way, right? So for anyone who just came on and we're talking about big tech and dopamine, they're like,
what are these guys talking about? Well,
what's
they know
going
I'm
on?
crazy, so they know
okay.
I'm crazy, but
Okay, so now you've got a crazy Swedish guy on.
There it is, man.
No, but so I think step one, realizing the platforms are designed. The platforms, the services, the devices are designed for this. It's not on you. You shouldn't be ashamed for having a hard time stopping and so on, but you need to be aware. It's impossible for any change to happen unless you realize that, okay, actually my screen time on the phone is 7 hours a day. Oh, is that something that I want, or are there other things in my life that I want to spend time on? So breaking out of this cycle is actually quite stressful, because we've got the dopamine release and our brain is telling us, "Oh, this makes me feel good. I'm triggering the reward center in the brain. Why? Don't stop, please. Don't stop. Keep going."
Right.
So we need to be aware of that. And so I talked to a brain expert, a professor, about this, and her advice was to find what she called a healthy dopamine substitution. So not trying to using willpower and saying, I'm strong, I can't pick it up, I'll just put it down and sit here and just be, I can't pick it up, I can't pick it up. But instead, finding other sustainable, healthy dopamine triggers, such as exercise, such as reading a book gives you a dopamine release, but much slower, much more sustainable. Going outdoors, finishing a task gives a dopamine release.
Mm.
So anything that that takes you in the direction where you want to go in your life, but also realizing that, okay, actually it's quite uncomfortable to just put down the phone. And so instead seeing, what do I want to spend more time on? I often ask people, hey, if you had 25 hours a day instead of 24, just you had 1 extra hour, what would you spend that on? And James, the interesting thing there is that I'm yet to meet a person who says I would spend it on TikTok, or I would spend it writing emails. They're like, ooh, I would go to the gym because I never have time for that. I would read that book I would play with the kids. I would clean the house. I would fix that step that's been broken.
Right.
Whatever it is, we all have things that we would like to spend more time on. So I think that's a key for anyone feeling that it is hard to stop, is to think about, why do you want to stop? What do you want to spend that time on? And it's magical. I mean, we free up time. It's not like we create time, but it can seem like that, because a lot of people spend passive time on unintentional time on the platforms, and then it can seem like you do get an extra hour in your day.
I love that. I mean, that's keeping it all in perspective as well. One last question that I want to ask that came to mind as you were talking about that. How challenging is it to have that conversation or this conversation about tech life balance to the different generations, right? So the 30, 40, 50-year olds maybe. So I've got 2 kids as well. You said you have kids. My kids are in college. So they're at that age where, obviously they've got mobile devices, things of that nature. I'm not sure if your kids have mobile devices on them or as well. But preteen, right? Teenagers, high school, college. How difficult is it to have this conversation to where it sinks in and where it resonates? Because again, those folks now at that age grew up with this. They grew up in the Facebook era. They grew up where they could Google something, right? Didn't have to worry about putting 10 cents in a phone booth on the corner. They had a phone in their pocket all the time, and internet was not at 300 baud. It was always at gig speed, that kind of thing. No one remembers the you got mail, the old AOL days and things of that nature. Having this conversation with different generations, how have you been able to approach that?
It's actually been easier than I thought it would. So I'm born in the 80s, so my generation and older, I guess, first of all, we're what's called digital immigrants. So the term that some of folks listening might have heard is digital immigrant or digital native. So if you're, like you said, born with these devices, grew up with them, or if they came during your upbringing. So I'm a digital immigrant, and I think we have quite a not really correct picture of younger generations, of college students and down. How, first of all, how they use it, but also their relationship with it, and a lot of people my age and older go, oh, it's the teenagers, they can't put it down, they're always on their phones. Well, first of all, look yourself in the mirror. Are you any better? And where's this behavior coming from? Who are they looking at? Who's paying for their phone and their phone bill, and what's their role model doing? But what's been surprising has been actually their both awareness. So for them, probably more than our generation, it's so normalized, it's so ingrained in the way that they live. How, I mean, they're so quick, right? I mean, I'm sure your kids are way quicker than you navigating on all these things.
I don't want to admit it. Don't say that out loud. I try not to admit that, but yes, they are. Yeah.
So you know, but then when I do talk to them, and again, the presentation I had on Tuesday this week was for a group of people aged probably between 20 and 50. And when you talk to these younger people, and I've been out on universities, you know, having presentations and doing workshops and things, and when you talk to them, they're so aware of this. They some of them literally, not literally cry, but like, help me, please. I know I can't focus on my studies. I had one 18-year-old girl who wrote a comment to me saying, I'm 18 years old. I've got neck, you know, starting to have really, really bad neck pain because I'm always like this. Do you have any advice? So first of all, that, and then the other surprising thing about having the conversation with that generation is their willingness to change. So I've been in front of, you know, I was in a room with 50 or so college students, and we had a challenge of deleting an app. So I stand up there on the scene. I talk about, you know, the number of apps that people typically have, the challenge with having too many apps, what, you know, and so on. So then I'm like, okay, everyone, let's delete an app on our phones. Well, first of all, I thought that they would just not do it. You know,
Right.
What's this guy talking about? Everyone did take up their phones, and then my second thought was, okay, so they'll find some app that they downloaded when they were going to a festival and had to have a parking app, or the airport, you know, some obscure app that they never use. So then everyone deleted a couple of apps, and then we had this exercise where they wrote comments, sharing which apps they deleted. TikTok pops up, Facebook pops up.
Wow.
This shopping app, Shein, shop. So like these, just because I challenged them to delete an app, this group of students knew that, okay, finally, I'm in an environment, I'm in a situation where it's okay. This guy is telling us to delete an app, so I'll just do it and then blame him or whatever. So that's a story and it's come up again and again, you know, that they are aware of the impact it's having on them. They know, just like you and I do, when we're using tech for us and when tech is using us. So I think, you know, we need to have this conversation, but we also need to be aware that they sometimes are more self-aware than we give them credit for.
Man, that's good stuff right there. That is good stuff right there. So don't sleep on this, folks. Be conscious in the activity as well, right? You know, point one finger out at other folks, but realize you got three fingers point back at you. There could be some apps on your phone that how many? I'll look at how many pages on my iPhone do I have, right? Of apps. You know,
there's a really simple way to check how many apps you have as well.
Oh no, I don't. Oh my gosh, I don't need that smoke right now. Okay, tell me.
So you go into settings.
Yeah. Oh, this is embarrassing. Okay.
And then I think you go into general or something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, general, and then about apps. Oh no.
About, yes. No. About, and then apps. So let's hear.
Dude.
I'm putting you on the spot here, James, or you're putting yourself on the spot.
I'm putting myself on the spot. Okay, I've got 496 apps on my device.
There you go.
I use probably 5 of them. That's horrible.
So no, don't say horrible. No, it's you know, bad. I try. Yeah, I hear you, but you know, we try not to you know, judge or blame self.
Well, there's some folks in the comments now that will judge me, right? I got some family members that just showed up right now that will No, it's all good.
So again, but I mean, we just did it live here, checking our app. So if anyone missed it, go into on your iPhone or Android similar. You go into general settings, general about, and then you can see number of apps. You can also see the number of photos you have.
Yeah,
And I recently spoke to a woman who had 70,000 photos, which probably isn't extra. It's a lot, but
that's an
it's
extreme.
not.
They're probably not quality photos, right? They're again just wild that need to be
Exactly.
edited. But
And
we
then you
we can
can
get into
and then
that
you can think
conversation
about
later as well too. Yeah,
what what has she, and she did this herself. She was the one who brought this up, and she was like, "Wow, I wonder how much of life I've missed because I was busy taking a photo."
dude. Okay, I'm trying to let you go, but see, because I know it's nighttime and you want to go to sleep, but right there. So I also worked for a decade in the concert promoting industry. So I worked for what was called Bill Graham Presents, but now is part of Clear Channel Entertainment. And back in my day, right, you would go to a concert and you would actually watch and enjoy the concert. Now, we back in my day, we didn't even allow folks to come in with cameras. Now everybody goes to a show, everyone goes to a concert, to an event, and all they're doing is trying to capture the event on their phone for their next social media post instead of living in the moment. And what's the big one right now? Instead of being at the Taylor Swift concert that's happening right now, instead of being at the New Edition show that's happening right now and watching and looking at Bobby Brown up there trying to dance, right? You're trying to capture it on your phone and you're missing the right, the live actual event happening. That's a huge issue as well that I have just with, and it's not even just this generation, it's just this time because it's so easily accessible right now. You got this device. We can take 4K 60 frames per second video with this thing. So that's pretty darn good quality. So yeah, of course
Mm,
you want to capture that, but live within that moment as opposed to
mm.
living tethered to these devices. I'm sorry, you just triggered me on that one, man. So I had to go a whole different direction. Let me look at these conversations and go ahead, man. I'm trying to let you go to sleep. I know it's midnight in Sweden. Uh, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no. I'm. Let's as we said on the pre talk here. We'll definitely have to continue this, and
Yes.
there's a lot we haven't gone into. We haven't even talked about Raymond Green, right? Let's not open that chapter.
Yeah,
But
I'm
no,
over here looking
I
at some
think
stats for Draymond right now, but that's funny. Okay,
I
I'm
think it's
shifting.
a good way. It's a good way to kind of start wrapping up a bit. Is to consider how is tech distracting us from life, from what's in front of us, whether it is Taylor Swift, whether it is work, whether it is family. I think just that if people listening to this should take one thing, is to think about how attention grabbing technology, often your phone, doesn't have to be, but for most people it's your phone. How is your phone getting in between you and your life? And I love citing research and what you just said about concerts. It's not surprising at all, but research supports the idea that you don't experience it as good. So when you take a photo with intent of sharing on social media, it reduces your experience of the show. You've paid what, $1,000 for a ticket to Taylor Swift, and you reduce your experience to take a photo to show other people that you were there, to get likes and dopamine hit from. It's just when you start going into it, it just doesn't make sense what we're doing. Again, you've probably done it, I've done it, but it's something to think about.
496. So yeah, I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna fix that. Uh, Corey's saying, but if you're recording the concert, you can always go back and watch it. That's true. That is true. But let's minimize. I'm gonna say I'm gonna challenge you, Corey, and say minimize those moments and actually live in that moment more, as opposed to always trying to capture it. And then because the reason I'm gonna say, the reason we're trying to capture these moments may not just be for ourselves or for our own records, but it's to try to get that voyeurism. It's to try to
Yes.
get that like. or try to get that acknowledgement from someone else. And why is that? Why do we have to take that photo at the gym of us working out, trying to hit that
Yep.
next PR and share that on social media? I'm working in silence. I would much rather do the work and be proud and be acknowledgement of myself as opposed to posting
Yes.
my gym workout on Facebook and say, look at me, look at me. Again, we can go a whole another 2 hours and just have that conversation, but I'm not going to do that. Tiano, hey man, listen, you're the truth. You're a good man. When you come back, we're going to talk about, will Draymond step on somebody again? Will he be traded to the Lakers? Because that's the big conversation. That's the next part of the conversation right now about him. We'll talk about your ball career and then some of the things that you've done as well. But tell folks where they can
And
find you.
also,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely I
No,
will.
go.
And also that next time, no, next time we'll let's try to tie in as well. Tech, the social impact that you talk about in
Yeah.
Team No Sleep. I've seen young promising players, honestly, who have been distracted from a career in basketball because of social media, because of going to the gym and worrying more about sharing their workout than doing the workout. Like literally, let's park that for next time.
No,
Where people can find
that's going to
me,
be some premium content right there. We're going to charge people at the door to come in and have that intimate conversation. But yeah, I'll digress on that. But go ahead, man.
yeah. No, I'm always, I mean, super enjoy this, and a few comments from people. I'm really all about hearing from people. How can I, what challenges are you meeting? How can I support you? I talk to companies. I do both. I mean, I'm based in Sweden now, but I do online webinars, workshops, and so on. So you can find me on tainobendz.com, which is the page you're having up there, James. The book is available for pre-order on Amazon. It will be released the 2nd of May, so just a week and a half away. You can find it on Amazon or techlifebalancebook.com, but the link there goes to Amazon. So yeah, super keen on people trying on some of the ways. I'm doing this because I genuinely believe that we need to change things. Also because I've heard so many people expressing it, and just to help people navigate in these tricky times. To be honest, a lot of people feel overwhelmed, feel pressure, and I think this can just want to help people and do some good impact in the world.
I love it, man. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much. You have definitely struck some chords and given, man, you're giving me action items and homework. So I got to go. My next 2 meetings, I got to go out walking. I got to take a picture and send it to you. Got to delete some of these apps. I can probably delete 200 apps today and still be fine. And because I don't, I obviously don't use 496 apps. That was actually eye opening. I didn't want to have that experience here online. So,
Yeah.
but no, you're a good man. So I
Well done.
appreciate you. I appreciate you, sir. I appreciate the book because again, 101 ways to thrive in a digital world. Not necessarily saying that we have to get rid of the technology, but be more conscious and be more focused on what we're doing and how we're doing it, because it's better for us from a health perspective, better for us from a personal relationship perspective. So, Tiana, go get some rest, man. I will talk to you soon. You're a good man.
Great,
Every
great chat, James.
Thank you, man. Everyone in the community, if you found some value, share it with someone. If you did not find value, let me know so we can continue to do better. And I will talk to you guys all soon. We out.